What's up? Gorzlock, the captain of the galactic exploratory vessel, blinked in confusion, looking around at his bridge crew for anyone who might have a clue what exactly was trying to contact them, and what they might be trying to say. All he got back was empty stares of his dumbfounded crew, and, well, he wasn't any better. And so, after a brief conversation with his communications officer, they decided to reply in kind. What's up? They sent to the newly discovered vessel. Hey, Dave, pick up the phone. The aliens know how to meme. What's up? Came through the call again. This time it was two people. And so Gorzlock replied again, this time asking his communications officer to join in. What's up? And so, after a slightly unusual but otherwise unexciting manner, humanity was first introduced to the Galactic Council. Humanity, on outward appearance, seemed rather normal. They were tough but squishy, nothing unusual there. They were omnivores, not the most common, but certainly far from rare. A little on the tall side. Long hair rather than fur or scales was perhaps their most unusual feature, at a first glance. This belief did not last very long. Humanity had problems, and they were contagious. Problems that became apparent rather fast, beginning with their very first attendance at the Galactic Council. Humanity had been assigned a specific date to attend their first council meeting. If only we had known what date that was. For most of the council members, it was just another day on the galactic calendar, unimportant for most. However, for humanity, they had a name for this day. April Fool's Day. And so, when the delegate for humanity was allowed to ask some scientific questions of the council, to hopefully catch them up to at least some of the council races, they asked again, this time more formally. What is up? The council members, confused by this, started answering with what the council was up to, but the human delegate shook his head. No, I mean, which way is up? There's got to be an up. Like a total upness. Which way does the up go to? After a lengthy debate, it was decided that nobody was quite sure which way was totally up, but looking at a map of the galaxy, there was an agreed upon up for the galaxy, even if it was relative to their own position in the stars and how they were used to viewing maps. Humanity would have to take this as their answer. They did not take this well. Certainly, the delegate was not bothered by this answer. The problems came from a video released on the human internet that recorded the debate about up. After laughing at the debate about up for a while, eventually somebody, somewhere, they took it seriously. Of course, this wouldn't have gone far, but this person had a lot of money to ask it with, and they were asking a lot of people. Throughout the scientific community, debate raged. It soon became clear that they did not have enough information to find the correct answer. This didn't stop anybody from trying, though. Most were just in it for the money, except for humanity. They were mainly in it for the memes. And memes there were. Very expensive memes such as the "never gonna give you up" trolling that the Galactic Council spent billions of credits investigating to check if humanity already knew where up was. They didn't. After much debate and calculations, it was eventually agreed upon that up was roughly that way, or about 72 degrees north of the galactic plane. This was calculated by placing the galaxy in the universe. This was a very expensive test to run, as they had to situate themselves in the universe. Scientific debate calmed for a while until it was suggested that this could be wrong. Why would the universe know what's up? Surely there is a more upper up than universal up. A total up. The base up. The Galactic Council, having had enough of this silly debate, decided that knowing up wouldn't help anyone. They dropped the subject entirely, except for the humans, who had at least stopped spending money on it, but you couldn't go on their internet without finding someone questioning, what's up? About half of humanity agreed with the council that it was pointless to ask, too difficult to answer, and would cost too much to investigate. The other half did not agree. Humanity splintered into two factions, the Wassuuuups and the Never Gonna Give You Ups. Of course, none of this was particularly official, but everyone knew what camp they were in. They called it the rule of two, those who knew up and those who sought it. At first, it was a meme war. However, eventually the political parties got involved and decided they were like the voting power of said groups. And so, when one major party decided to join the Never Gonna Give You Ups, the other major party immediately joined the Wassuuuups. This was a disaster, and after watching humanity tear itself apart in a civil war for a few months, it was decided the council would have to intervene. So the question was debated again: which way was up? This was an even larger disaster, and during an even larger civil war, now involving multiple species, a universal council approached the Galactic Council for the first time and told it to calm down. "Down? You tell us to calm down? We don't know what down is," replied the Galactic Council. This was an even larger disaster. Because of course it was. Who could expect anything else by now? And as the stars raged across the entire universe, one person rose above it all. Well, maybe above, we weren't so sure yet. Could be to the side. They claimed that the only way to know the true up would be to go outside and touch the up. Surely from outside the universe it would be obvious which way was up. Fighting was paused for a moment, as everyone took stock of the new development in upology. Delegates from both sides, or in this case both ups, were sent to meet and discuss developing a craft which could go outside and check. After much investment and designing a craft was developed. It was a very simple craft, barely capable of doing its job, but it would suffice. The craft was launched and completed its mission. Nearly successfully. It only had one issue. The lens cap got stuck, and so the only pictures they received were completely dark. This was very unfortunate. The Wassuuuups accused the Never Gonna Give You Ups of sabotage, which they vehemently denied. However, many of the Never Gonna Give You Ups decided that they had been cheated, and so they joined the Wassuuuups. The result of which was the complete and utter eradication of any Never Gonna Give You Ups still hanging on to their now ridiculed and disproven beliefs. Another craft was launched, this time with extra cameras with special lens caps, and a few non-visual detectors this time around to make sure that it worked. And this time, it worked. We found up, and we weren't far off from being correct with their first calculation, just a few degrees off. But everyone agreed that it was certainly worth it, because if it wasn't worth it, it was a huge mistake. And we couldn't be having that now after spending so many lives on the answer. So, the universe finally calmed down. Now united under one banner, they rebranded and put the debate to rest. Finally able to look forwards to the future. Well, at least until... Forwards? Which way is forwards?